Hello again, it's Sappy Nirvana, with the continuing with travel tips from the American point of view for London. And now this episode, I'm going to focus on what to see in London. This is part one. This is going to be separated into several parts, and I apologize for I'm using my phone to record this, and I don't know why the focus is kind of weird on the when I'm focusing on my laptop. So hopefully it doesn't give people vertigo when they're looking, because I noticed that it just kind of pulsates. So we're going to be looking at, um, today we're going to be west of the river, and we're going to start off with Kensington. I'm going to try to zoom this where, there. I decided to do Google Maps because I don't want to give too much away by just showing pictures, because you can look up pictures. Obviously, you can look up Google Maps also, but you can look up pictures, and that kind of defeats the purpose of, hey, if I can see the pictures online, why do I need to go see this stuff? Yeah, well, it's for the experience. So, we're going to start off the Kensington area. Obviously, you have Hyde Park there, which is one of the larger parks in London. And then on you would think that this whole thing would be Hyde Park, and it technically isn't. This side of the what's called the Serpentine is Kensington Gardens, and there's Kensington Palace, which is where royals generally stay. Not so much, I think, as much as they used to. But I'm just going to point out a few key places in this area. So Kensington's a really nice area to start out with, and Hyde Park is very beautiful, and it's one of those things I think that if you go to this area, you take a day to walk through Hyde Park. It's absolutely worth it. So we'll start on the west side, and Kensington Palace, which once again, it's a royal residence, but it is open to tours, which I did do the tour, and highly worth it, I believe. Now, you're going to see a lot of things within the palace that are very original to the palace from when it was built. You're going to see a lot of newer things. You're going to see they have a portrait gallery in there that has a lot of intimate photos of the royals. Um, I would say that if you're looking for that experience, and but also you want to take photographs, this would be the place where I would recommend to go, because and I'll explain it further in another video. If you go to like Windsor Castle, you're restricted to taking pictures from outside. Once you enter inside the castle or within St. George's Chapel, photography is strictly forbidden. So if you're a person who either likes to keep your memories through photographs, or you are a photographer, it kind of defeats what you're going there for if you can't take the pictures. So Kensington Palace is a fairly large palace, um, smaller than obviously Buckingham or Windsor, but it's really nice. Outside there's kind of a labyrinth, sort of setup, and within the labyrinth there is a memorial to Diana, where there's a statue that has her with two children, because she's obviously known for her philanthropy, especially with children. Um, Within Kensington Gardens, Hyde Park, you got two water waterways. You got and the gardens. You have the round pond, and then you have bridging both. You have what's called the Serpentine, which was an Olympic venue also. So the thing about the Serpentine is that you can take boats out on there. They do have a small beach area, and wildlife is plentiful around there. You see a lot of different birds. Up on the northern side, you'll have a Peter Pan statue. Um, Jamboree, pretty famous for Peter Pan. He donated the proceeds, or he donated the proceeds. He everything that's Peter Pan related goes to the Great Ormond Children's Hospital. So they own the licensee to the Peter Pan. Very north side, you have the Italian Gardens, which was something that Albert installed, and it's I'm sure it was a lot nicer in the day. Um, I went late in the year, so October, so it wasn't quite as bright and colorful as maybe it is during the summertime. On the south side, and you can't really see it, there's a main gate down here, and you have the Albert Memorial. Up in the corner here, it's not marked. You have Speaker's Corner, which is fairly famous. A lot of great orators and writers, poets have spoken. It's kind of a place where people go to get their word out. There is a lot of memorials to a lot of different things. There is a Holocaust memorial within the park. I think it's right around in this area. But yeah, there's other memorials dedicated to countries who fought in the war to aid England against Germany. Also, there's a fairly famous Henry Moore sculpture, if I remember right, it's called the Arch, and it's north. I think it's. I'm trying to remember where it's at. I think it's like right in here. Yeah, I think it's right in here. This area right in here, because I seem to remember it was right before the bridge. And Henry Moore is a fairly famous British sculptor. So that's probably the big main points of Hyde Park. I'll probably also mention it when I get to the Westminster area part, but you have the Wellington Arch over here, and if you see a picture of it, you'll know it. It's a fairly famous landmark within London. South of the park, you have Royal Albert Hall. I'm sure many people have heard of it. It's a pretty famous concert hall. You go further south yet, you have the Natural History Museum, the Science Museum, and the Victoria and Albert Museum. Now, I did not go to the Science Museum. I've heard it's really nice. I will speak on the Natural History Museum and the Vic and Albert. Natural History Museum is really nice. It's separated into different species. They have a large section dedicated to dinosaurs and then mammals and insects. But if you're into the natural history, yeah, it's definitely a place I would pick. Now, Vic and Albert, I put it on the par with like what the British Museum is, and it has a lot of history in it. It has your Roman, the Greek. It has classical artwork. It also has a lot of artwork and items belonging to the British Empire. It is now. I made the mistake when I went. Trying to make a day of it between the Vic and Albert and Natural History Museum, and really Vic and Albert is a day in itself. So if you're going to do these sites, you have to keep in mind that this isn't a museum that, hey, I'm going to be here an hour and I'll be out. No, it's a lot of these museums within London. It's a several-hour process, if not a day. I mean, when I get into talking about the British Museum, it's to be able to see really everything. If you're really going to be really insightful about looking, you're going to be looking at like way more than just one day. So that's pretty much all I got for the Kensington part of this. So we're going to switch over to the Westminster. Now, you go from Wellington Arch down to Constitution Hill, and that'll take you to Buckingham Palace. Now, Buckingham Palace does have availability to tour, but it's a very limited availability. So it's one of those things that you need to look and research to know when they're allowing tours, and that otherwise you're basically going there for the view to see what the palace looks like. I did not think it was all the way overly impressive, but that's just my view on it. Just outside of Buckingham Palace, right here where that little circle is the Victoria Memorial, which is a really large memorial dedicated to Queen Victoria. Now, you also have the Royal Mews, where they keep the horses. You have the Household Cavalry Museum up there, which is dedicated to the horses. They're obviously cavalry and horses. Over here, Big Ben, which is technically, if you want to be technical about it, is the Queen Elizabeth Tower. It is connected to the Parliament building. Big Ben is actually not the clock and not the tower, but it's actually the bell in the tower. But just for generalizedness, it's always just been referred to as Big Ben. One of the big places I would suggest if you're going to plan on going to London is Westminster Abbey. One of the oldest buildings in London. The amount of history that is in the building, the events that have happened in the building. It is where the coronation of Charles will be happening later this year there, and it's been the coronation for kings and queens for almost a millennium. So the other thing is it's the resting place of a lot of famous people, not just royalty, but you're talking about Isaac Newton's there, Stephen Hawking's there, Laurence Olivier is interred there. The list is on and on. It's a thing where I would suggest if there's somebody of importance that you I guess it's weird and it's to some people, but you know, you're connecting history, but you're also connecting with, hey, this person I read in a history book actually existed, and this is where they're at. So that's the way I look at it. So there, where Big Ben is at, you have Parliament also. Parliament, I do believe that it's kind of restricted on touring, especially for tourists outside. I mean, they do tours for school children, but I think for the general public, it is a lot more restricted. So it's something that if you're going over there, I would say if you're not really into politics, you probably don't care. But for the spectrum of that, it's probably not something that I would put up high on your list, because I just don't think that it's something that there's going to be hoops and barrels probably to get any time in there, if you can get in there at all. So we're going to go to our last area. Let me click this. There we go. And this is the St. James, Soho, and Covent Garden area. We're going to start out at the bottom of the map. You have Trafalgar Square, which is pretty synonymous with London. Trafalgar Square, named for the Battle of Trafalgar, where yeah. So there is a large equestrian statue right in front of it. Oops, didn't mean to zoom it up that much. Anyhow, so there's an equestrian statue, but there at Trafalgar Square itself, there's this. It's an ungodly large monument that's dedicated to the Battle of Trafalgar, and the lions on it are just unbelievably huge. Now, you're not supposed to go. You can go up on the monument. You're not supposed to go on the lions. It specifically says don't go on the lions, but it don't stop people. The other thing is it is a large gathering area. When I was over there was a protest going on. If you go back to the Kensington with Hyde Park, Speaker's Corner used to be where, if there were protests or gatherings, that's where the main thing. Trafalgar Square has become that. So just beyond Trafalgar Square, you have the National Gallery, which is where most of the more famous paintings that you'll find in London are. Now, there are a couple other galleries that are within London. You have the Tate Britain, and then you have the Tate Modern, which I'll get to on another video. But the National Gallery, you're gonna find your Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Van Gogh, and artists of that ilk. You're gonna find a lot of their stuff in there. It's one of those things that, if you're an art lover, you're gonna. I would say, of the three main galleries, that would be where I would tell you to go. Tate Britain caters to pretty much just British artists. Tate Modern, within the name itself, it's modern. It's 20th century, 21st century, and so if you're looking for the classical art, National Gallery is definitely your place that you're going to want to go. Now, you have up north here Leicester Square, which there's a lot of monuments to different people. Even cartoon characters, It's kind of funny. But at Leicester Square, and found this by accident. There's a casino there for one, but the main attraction would be Cineworld Leicester Square, and that's where a lot of the movie premieres take place. And when I was there in October, the movie premiere for Black Adam was taking place, so I actually got to see Dwayne Johnson, which was kind of weird and kind of neat. Now you'll also see on here that I highlighted. If you see the hearts, these are places that I've been. I guess I should have started that off with the intro video. The other thing you're gonna see is just how close in proximity all the underground stations are at. So, Leicester Square, you got the Lego store and you got the M&M's World, which if you're a big fan of M&M's, yeah, it's like literally 3 floors of nothing but M&M's and M&M merchandise. The Lego store is really cool because they have a lot of big displays, and probably any Lego set you've ever dreamt of is going to be there. So I'm going to finish this off by talking about what they call the West End. Specifically, I want to talk about two different venues, and that's Her Majesty's Theater, which will become again His Majesty's Theater because it's based off of whoever is the royal that's in charge of the country at the time, and the Sondheim. These are two places that I visited. If you're into um, if you're into musicals or Broadway or just um, play productions in general, the West End, I'm sure you've heard of. It's the I wouldn't say it's the equivalent because it was there first, but if you want to equate what we call in the United States Broadway, this is the English version of Broadway. So Her Majesty's Theater is the permanent home of Phantom of the Opera, and Sondheim is the permanent home of Les Mis. So tickets are, I would say, they're probably equal to what you're going to be paying if you went to Broadway in New York. So expect to pay a decent amount of money. If you're a taller person, I will say that the I would equate the seating to be the same as a sporting venue because almost every sporting venue I've ever been to, they're not really particularly made for tall people because they're trying to create as many seats as possible to get as many people in the venue. So you may not be real comfortable if you're on the taller side, but you just have to keep that in mind. Now you have each theater is different in its own different way, but I would suggest maybe even if you're not a fan of that kind of genre, that you just take things. Most of the attractions in London are closed by 6 o'clock. So you're usually running 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 10 to 5, 10 to 6, where your productions aren't starting till like 7:30. So a lot of times your evenings are going to be open. So if you got a little extra money, I would highly suggest, instead of saying, "Oh, let's go to a movie," go see a production. It'd be worth your while. So this is going to wrap up this first episode. I'm not. We'll see where we go with the second episode. We're going to be definitely going towards the east side. We're probably really focusing on central London, I'm going to go from this eastern part to central to maybe the eastern part, and then I'll start talking about places outside of that, places that you might have to go a little bit further north or south or west or east comparatively. Because, like, Windsor is way out past um, Heathrow. It is well over an hour outside of London proper. There's places like Camden and up further that I might not get into. I might get into that when I go with British and that, but I'm just trying to section this out so I'm not having an hour video trying to squeeze everything in to one video. So anyhow, I'm gonna wrap this up because I think I've already went too long, and keep an eye out for episode number 3 where we explore more places to see in London. As always, this is Happy Nirvana, and I thank you for watching the video. Bye!